Hey, welcome to Real Talk. I am excited today for us to have a chat with Cheryl Jackson. She is the executive director for Open Gate Ministries here in Dinuba, California. And Open Gate is all about helping the homeless, feeding the hungry, doing all kinds of things that we do. I'm the president of the board of directors with Open Gate. So some of what we're going to talk about, and when I ask a question, it's going to be pretty obvious. I already know the answer to a lot of this, but we just want to chat about it and talk a little bit about Open Gate. So we just say, welcome, Cheryl. It's good to have you on with me today. Tell me a little bit about how you came to Open Gate and what that looked like. When was that?
Okay. I've been with Open Gate for 3 years now. I came in 2019, so maybe it's not quite 3 years. I had been with Vineyard Christian Fellowship in Anaheim for 36 years, on staff there for 32 of those years. And the last several years there, I was the outreach pastor. So near the end of that time, 2018-ish, I felt the Lord start to say it's time to go back home, even though that had become my home.
Yeah.
But I was born and raised here in Kingsburg, and the folks were getting older, and I knew for a couple of years I'd been praying about timing, and that was the time. I didn't know what I was going to do when I got up here. I just knew that I was supposed to come back. So I started praying about a job, and right around that same time, you guys were praying about a new executive director for Open Gate. And my niece, who goes here to Living Word, called me and said, before I even really knew I was coming back, her and the boys, some of the Montalongo boys were like, that's a job for Aunt Cheryl. Yeah. So they called me. It wasn't quite the right time when I first got the call, but several months after that, so February 2019, I started, and what a ride.
I know this is, right. It's been a ride, all right. We can talk about that. But I know this home to you, but how long were you at Vineyard?
36 years. On staff, 32. So right after Bible college, I went down there.
Okay. So you had your whole life.
My whole adult life was down there, yeah.
What was that like, pulling back from everything you had built of a life and friends and, coworkers and ministry and all this, and then now you come back? It's almost like coming back to that small town, because we're talking Anaheim.
Yeah.
Right? Whole different
Orange
mindset.
County, yeah.
Yeah. So what was that like?
It's you know what? The transition was easy because it was the Lord.
Yeah.
I miss my people sometimes. I still have those relationships, but over those years, you make relationships with people that go out and plant churches. So
right.
I have relationships all over the nations, really, because of that. We were a church planting church. So those relationships are still intact, and it just looks different now. Of course, once I got up here, it wasn't long, wasn't too long. I mean, dive in 2019, get this shelter open and food distribution going. And that was a whirlwind that first year, and then COVID hit. So it's been, that part of it changed relationally for everybody.
Yeah.
But anyway, those relationships are still there. I miss the food choices of Orange County.
Yeah.
One of the things I first asked you was, okay, where can you get a good steak around here?
Right.
But,
and when you come back here, it's like, okay, there's tacos.
Yeah.
And then there's tacos. And then there's tacos, and then maybe you could get some pizza and fast food, but apart from that, I mean, there's stuff in Fresno, Visalia, but
it's different. But it's not like I didn't know it. I was raised here, but
one of these days, I really do. I want to sit down and visit with you about. I mean, I'm coming up on, I've been here 25 years in this setting of ministry, and just. Yeah, one of these days, I think that'd be a good topic of conversation for us, not necessarily on Real Talk, but just just to find out how during that time, a lot of what you cultivated and adapted to, and the changes you saw in your church over those years, and you yourself, because I know you didn't go in doing the outreach. You started out
Receptionist.
just coming in and serving as a receptionist, and then took on a myriad of things. And I don't know that you and I have ever really sat down and talked about more of the detail, because our relationship has been really centered around Open Gate. But I don't know, since COVID hit me and everything, I'm trying to smell the roses a little more and dig down into people more, and get to know people a little bit more. So anyway, but yeah, when you came to Open Gate, we were in some pretty rough waters. As a matter of fact, the way I got involved with Open Gate was that it was in bad shape and about to close. In fact, there was discussion of what are we going to do. And Roger Neufeld had come to me and said, "Hey, we need you." We talked about a myriad of things at that time, and it was kind of I really felt like the Lord was sending me in as a rescue mission, if you will, to rescue this really important ministry. Not that I did, but we began to assimilate a team.
Yep.
And that's how you rescue something, is you get good leadership, you get good fundamentals, good systems in place and strategy, and you change a culture that can develop. And what I found with Open Gate is this: a lot of ministries that are ministering to the poor and the needy. The poor and the needy are walking in a spirit of poverty. And if you're not careful, the very people you're trying to reach, you almost begin to drift over as an organization to develop their mindset, instead of adapting their mindset to the way it should be. It's like we began, I think Open Gate over those years had drifted. And this was a good opportunity for things to right the ship, get it back on track, back to its original intent, and maybe speak a little bit to that original intent. When was Open Gate formed, and why, and what's been the mission of Open Gate the whole time?
Open Gate is coming up on its 47th anniversary. Like, it's been a solid, working, loving atmosphere for the poor and the needy in this town and for the whole area for 47 years. 1974, wow. It was started by a lady named Vivian Martson, whom most people in this town know if they've been here, longer than a few years. They had a studio downtown. They were the photographers that everybody went to. And she was a Sunday school teacher in a local church here. And the Lord began to show her her neighbors. So no different than what happens in us right now, right? Mm-hmm. That's what the Lord does in us. He shows his heart to us, and then he calls us to respond. Yeah. And that's what happened with Vivian. He began to show her her neighbors that might have been struggling with food issues. Mm-hmm. And she got her kids at that time and started making sandwiches and going door to door, literally door to door with food, with her kids squirming probably some of the time, as we've talked to them, a little bit embarrassing, but a little bit cool, just going door to door and saying, hey, is there a need in your family? Is there a need in your life? Can we touch it physically, and can we pray for you? So the Lord spoke to her out of the scriptures and basically said, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was naked, you clothed me. That's how Open Gate started. And it's it's been food distribution early on. I was going to talk about her Sunday school class. She was teaching a junior high Sunday school class at that time. And so she brought it to the kids. And she's like, look at this, you guys. What do you think we should do?
What's that look
Here is a
like?
need.
Yeah.
Here is a need in with our neighbors. We're called to love our neighbors. What does that look like? And the kids started dialoguing. And at the time they said, we need to open a shop. And we need to call it a friend shop where people can come and not be alone, where they can be encouraged and then meet the greatest friend of all, Jesus.
Wow.
So we can be their friends, but we can introduce them to the best friend of all. That's Jesus. So, yeah, I can't be.
And out of that idea from a junior high Sunday school class
yes,
came, let's take in people that are, drifters or that have a family that might be homeless or needs some help and to get back on their feet.
That's right.
And it started, Vivian started bringing people into her home.
Yes.
Her husband was like, oh, no, we can't keep doing this, right? And then they kind of started Open Gate with a group of people that were praying about what to do, how to do this in the back of the studio. And birthed out of that came Open Gate Ministries in, 74? I think you said.
In 74.
And then they bought a little house. They had a little house downtown somewhere and began to take people in here and there.
I need to find that house because
Yeah.
I've seen pictures of it with Vivian standing at at the gate.
Wonder if it's still, is it still existing?
I don't know.
Maybe
Roger
it's been
would
moved.
probably know.
Maybe it's still there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, Roger
That'd be
would know
cool.
for sure.
But they moved to our current shelter in 85.
Yeah.
Is where we moved to this current.
So fast
house.
forward now, okay, you say in 85 they bought this house. And of course, I came to Dinuba in 96. So I was here about 11 years after they had been going in that location. But since I've been here, that corner, it's Open Gate. Everybody in town knows that house is Open Gate. And if you have lived here more than probably a month, you have heard somebody refer to that, and everybody in town knows that's Open Gate Ministries. So what are we doing now to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, to provide housing and help for people? What's that look like today in 2021?
So Open Gate we basically have three pieces of the ministry. We've got the shelter there on K Street. We house around 34 people when we're at capacity. We've got family units in the back that are unique to all of Tulare County. So there are not places in the whole of Tulare County that allow homeless dads with their children or moms and dads together with their children. They separate the dads. They separate the families. So it's really because they just don't have the capacity or the places to house them all together.
Wow.
So I'm so proud of that about us. It continues to surprise me when I'll have social workers or people from hospitals or people that work for the city or the county say, "No, you guys are it. You're it for moms and dads to stay together with their kids." Because they put dads in like a dorm. They'll separate dads into a dorm and older teenage kids. But there's also a gap in the system for, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old boys. There really isn't a place for that. They're too young to be, in some ways, thrown with the wolves into all these dorms
Adult men,
with a bunch
sure.
of adult men, but they're also too old to be with the younger women and children, which they separate just for safety issues,
Sure.
sexual abuse prevention issues, that kind of stuff. So I'm just really grateful we have that. So we have room for about 16 in our family units, 3 different units.
Okay.
And then upstairs in the house, we have 5 bedrooms that sleep about roughly 18. Sometimes we're squishing them in
Yeah.
to pack and plays or
Sure.
cribs or something like that. But
And that inside the house is strictly for women
and
and
children,
smaller children.
kids under 12.
Yeah.
So if they're boys older than that, even if it's a single mom,
They
we'll
have
move
to
them
go
to the
out
back.
family unit.
We'll
Yeah.
move them to the
Yeah.
back.
Well, the thing has come a million miles in that, but tell me about how long. I mean, I know that some probably only stay a few days, but talk a little bit about when they come. What's that process look like?
We're in a little bit of a transition right now just because of some circumstances that have recently happened. So we've been recommended by our local sheriff's and police department, and just all the issues that have happened surrounding COVID and evictions and all that kind of stuff that happens. We've been recommended to go back to being a month stay, really 29-day stay. This is like literally, we still have to talk to the board, we still have to talk to our committee, but their recommendation is that we do a 29-day stay, and then they need to leave for a day. So they can't establish residency, if you will. Having said that, we absolutely can have them come back after that first month. We have found, as a team, and me really being new, I did a lot of work with homelessness, but before I came here, but not in the trenches, day in and day out. And we have found that we really need at least 2 months to help them get on their feet. Very rarely can something happen in that first month. So we had to find a way forward to get past that 29-day stay thing.
Back when I started here in '96, we as a church started to get involved with Open Gate, and one of the challenges I had internally as a pastor here locally was you can't fix generational poverty and the position that these people are in life. You can't fix that in a month. You should be a 3-month or maybe even a 6-month. And, back in those days, they didn't do that. They might give a 15-day extension or this or that back around that time. And I internally struggled with it because it's like all you did was put a Band-Aid on a bad situation and release them. And so as I came on, with Open Gate, that was a fundamental thing that I looked at and said, look, we got to provide some sort of a phase 2 or something that takes them from poverty to productivity. And a person that's in poverty and that's down like that, rarely is it situational poverty. Situational meaning I lost my job, I lost my house, there was a fire, I need 30 days to get a new location, a more permanent residence or whatever. I still have my income, blah, blah, blah. Whatever that situation is, situational poverty. What we deal with more than anything is generational poverty. And generational poverty, man, that's come down through the generations. And these people have lived their whole life. I mean, you've told me of people that were living out of the back of their car, families living out of the back of their ar, and they found a home, they found a place where they could come in and be loved and ministered to, and they're now in their own place. But that doesn't happen in 29 days.
Nope.
So what's that process look like? I mean, are there situations where they have to be at a certain place before we would consider to extend another 30 days to them? What are they going through in that first 30 days?
To speak to that whole generational poverty, because I would say that's most of what we deal with, and it's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah.
It really is. We've got a family right now that we're dealing with that we've got an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old in the family, and the daughter is saying, so they've been to other places, and the daughter is saying, I like it here because you're pushing mom
Yeah.
to get a job.
Yep.
You're pushing her out of that, well, I have this kind of money and I'm
Right.
just going to wait and see if I can find a place that is for low income.
Will take me. Sure.
And daughter is looking at that going, there's more. There must be more. And she's at that place right now where she could choose to fall into that
Yeah.
or fight out.
She's at a crossroads.
Or fight out of it.
Yeah.
But
But
I'm grateful that she sees that.
Yeah.
That she sees that. But so when they come, like, it's for all kinds of reasons. But maybe it's been addictions. Maybe and because of those addictions, they're trying to get their kids back. We've had multiple families over the years, like, come in because they can't have their kids back until they have a stable place, a
Right.
safe, stable place
Right.
in which to be reunited with their children.
Right.
So
As it should be.
as it should be. And that's a very interesting scenario for us to watch and walk people through, but it happens all the time. So we work with Child Protective Services and Child Welfare Services, depending on the county that you're in, to help reunify people. And what a beautiful place for them to come, for the children who've been in foster care, to be able to reunify with parents in our setting. One of the things that the Lord spoke to me very early on was establish an atmosphere of praise in this this place.
Yeah.
The atmosphere that people come into is very, very important, So they come, they could be like we've talked, they could have been living in their car.
Right.
They could have been, we had a single dad that him and the boys were camping in parks. Like, there's all kinds of laws now
Sure.
protecting them from being able to live in open spaces, even with children. So they only have to have their kid, like, in a hotel for a week out of the month to be able to keep their children.
Wow.
A lot of people don't understand, how can it be legal to be homeless?
And there's this whole world out there, this whole community out there of homelessness, and they know that system.
Yeah.
You and I,
They do.
the average person, the person that's listening to us right now, that's probably news to them.
Yeah.
But these people learn the system and they know how to work the system, which honestly, that lends itself to that spirit of poverty as well.
Sure
That's
does.
over on them. So when they come in, what do they do for that first 30 days?
So when they get there, they're coming from a place of stress, from a place of fear, from a place of hungry, from a place of cold or hot, depending on the season. Couch hopping, they've burned their bridges. If they've dealt with addictions, they've burned their bridges. They might have family in town, multiple family members in town. But because of their choices, they've burned all those bridges. They're out of options.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't pay rent, and so they have an eviction. It's very hard to help a family get in a place when they have evictions on their record. So when they first come, just to see the look on their face.
That's okay. That's what, yeah.
Of the kids, that one camping family that was a dad and 2 boys, just to see them have their fill of food
Yeah.
and choices of food and not be cold, have socks, and actually have a bed to sleep in, So a lot of times we're just helping them in those first few days or week even decompress from where they've been.
Mm-hmm.
And mom's emotional, dad's emotional. It's
Right.
like, okay, we can breathe for a
Right.
minute. We can
Right.
breathe. There's a place that my kids are safe in,
Right.
that they will be fed in, and clothed if they need it.
Yeah.
So if they need clothes, we get them down to the store,
Yeah.
our thrift store,
Yeah.
and they have a certain amount of can't voucher,
Sure.
a voucher that they have down there, and we'll just outfit them with some outfits and
Sure.
socks and underwear and shoes if they need it. I mean, this town is amazing. Also, we've got a local shoe store that will help if we need it, and we've had entire families come back with brand new shoes on all
Wow.
their feet.
Wow.
I mean, we can't do it in a vacuum.
Right.
This is a
It's a
community
community shelter
driven
and
shelter
ministry,
and food
really.
distribution.
Yeah.
It really is.
And for many years, Open Gate has been supported by local churches that have come together and the conduit of their extension, because a church can't do all this, but they can funnel resources in so that this can be a community effort. And for many, many years, we've done that. It seems like the tide has kind of turned away from. There are still local congregations that the whole congregation gets involved. They set it up as a missions project, and they funnel funds through it. I don't want to detour from that, but it seems like the factions and kind of the separation and everything over the years has turned more into individuals coming and saying, I want to be a part of this. Doesn't matter what church I go to.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even matter if my church is going to, as a whole, do this. I want to be a part. I want to be a part.
Yeah.
And that's really another aspect of community, when the residents of the community come together, and not just in the community, but we form community around a local ministry that's really making a difference. And we've seen some amazing results. I know we're coming up to a big fundraiser where we're going to display on a video. I shouldn't use the word display, but share on a video a little bit about some of these families, that where they started and where they are now. And I mean, we're talking, they've got their own place. They've got great jobs that they're raising their money. They've gone to classes on how to budget their money and how to work with that, and even parenting and other classes that they can take.
That's right.
Because of the way that Open Gate networks with other organizations around, to basically discover the needs of that family and say, okay, here we have this, we have this, we have this for you. So they're not sitting around for that 30 days.
No. So I was going to jump back to that, and I'm glad you did the full circle. So basically they're just adjusting and like settling in that first few days, learning chores. But really the heart of things for us, for them, is that they would know Jesus. They would feel his presence, whether they know him or not, through our staff. And then we get them set up with case management, if you will, that's specific to their family's needs. So do they need to find a job? Then we get them on Indeed, and we hook them up with maybe even local people that are wanting to hire. Right now there's jobs everywhere.
Sure.
So it's very obvious when at this point when people don't want
Want
work
to work,
because
right.
and that's hard to push through with people.
Sure,
But
sure it is.
it's part of our boundaries. It's
Right.
part of there's other places they can go
Yeah.
to just sit and wait for something to come up in the system.
And
That's not who we are. That's
yeah.
not what we want to do.
And after they get work, now they're getting a paycheck.
Yep.
And we require them to set aside and save
Yes, we do.
up towards getting their own place.
That's right.
doing that.
It's their own money.
Yeah.
But we want them to save. I mean, that's part of the problem for many of them, for many of us. You know,
Sure.
we just don't manage money well.
Right.
And so part of what we do with them, when we bring them in, they know this. You need to save 75% of your income, whether they're getting a check from disability or from the state or whatever. You pay your bills. We don't want them to default on real bills that need to
Something
be
that they may
paid.
have out there,
you
sure.
know, but then you're and then you're saving 75% of what's left over. So they get to spend 25% of what's left after their bills. But they're saving the other 75%. They need something to launch from.
Yeah.
You know, they need to be able to have firsts and lasts and, deposits or stuff like that. We have a local church that helps them outfit apartments if we get them in apartments or homes. And that's just one of the things that their church felt called to do, and they had the resources for. So they have the storage space over there, and they can outfit a whole little place
Wow.
with stuff, with donations that they're getting
Sure.
from their
So
church.
we're talking like couch and
Couches,
dishes and-
dressers,
yeah.
kitchen stuff,
Wow.
beds,
that is so awesome.
It's beautiful.
I didn't
It's-
even realize that we
it's
had
really
somebody
neat.
doing that. That's
yeah.
that's fantastic. But that's a great example of the networking
It is.
and pulling together for an effort, because at the end of the day, this issue is bigger than any of us.
Yeah.
But it's not bigger than all of us.
Right.
And it's going to take everybody coming together to help with this. But I want to address something that I think it sets Open Gate apart very, very much from the rest. We all have this mindset of go to the shelter, and I don't know about you, but in my mind, when I hear go to the shelter, I see this big open place where a man comes in and maybe has his kid, and or a mom comes in with their little one and they have a bed for the night, a cot. No privacy, no anything. They can get a shower the next day and then they're gone. Right? And then they can come back that night. I also see in the shelter where when a woman will go in, it's more dormitory. It's less private. It's less personal. It's not conducive to family. And I think the thing that we did so well that I love about Open Gate is that when we came in, the house was in such poor condition. And
I would have been scared to work there.
well, I'll be honest with you. I made the statement, and I know this is going out publicly, but I made it publicly. I'm not putting a family off the streets in a place that I wouldn't put my own child or my grandchild. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And so our church, along with others, came together, and even the city got involved and renovated that shelter. And what we said all along was, this needs to be evidence of home.
Yeah.
Where people are welcome,
Yeah.
they are loved, they are safe. That happens to be our feeling here at Living Word. We want people to feel welcomed, loved, and safe. But we also at Open Gate, we looked at that and we said, and not just welcome, not just loved, not just safe, but an example of what home should look like. So that in the future, when you go out of here, you can see what is possible. So we give them their own room for their family. It may be a couple of beds in there, but it's their room, right?
Yes.
And you're not mixing that. And then we all come together for family dinner.
That's right.
And we built or brought in tables and benches that made it feel. Every time I look at it, I think of the Waltons. You remember that
Sure.
old show? And
Yeah.
it's like the long table and the family coming together
Yes.
for dinner.
Yeah.
And we feed the people well. I mean,
We really do.
I want to come over and have dinner, man.
Sometimes when those
they're eating better than
meals
I
get
am, right?
posted, aren't they?
Yeah,
beautiful?
it's amazing.
Yeah.
And Alex posts that stuff. And
Yeah.
it's just amazing. But I wanted to talk about that for a minute and just drill down on that maybe for a second, because I think that's what sets Open Gate apart. I go all the way back to Vivian in front of that little house, standing there with the fence, and the gate was open. And that was Open Gate Ministries.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like going to grandma's house. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where there's family, where you can come together. And I understand everybody's coming with their baggage and they got to deal with their stuff and everything. And I'm sure you could tell horror stories of everything you have to deal with in conflict.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think in that environment, that's good, because these are people that have not dealt with conflict well.
It's true.
And it has led them to not be able to keep a job or not be able to interact with people that don't think the way they do. Mm-hmm. Or maybe they do, and they're just, they're territorial, they're this or that, whatever. People are hurting. People are wounded. And so when they come together, how do you guys deal with in the home some of that strife and conflict and stuff that has to be there? You see it every day.
Absolutely. It's a people thing.
Yeah.
Right? Let me give a little bit of context to that too, in terms of the house and Pastor Mark talking about, I don't want a home that I wouldn't put my own kids in, and me saying I would have been scared. Bottom line is it just was old and run down.
Oh, yeah.
It just was old and run down.
It was in disrepair.
It was in disrepair. Things were broken.
And in fairness, a lot of that was because they never had the funding to do anything.
That's right.
And address things. And, if you don't address the roof, it's going to leak.
Yeah.
And if you don't address the dinginess.
Yeah.
But it was that, but there was also a cultivation of a mindset that was
a feeling, right? A
it
sense.
Just felt.
Yeah. And I do want to say that in the earlier days when we were showing pictures, because it's gorgeous now. Go on the website, look at the opengatedinuba.com. And you can see some of the pictures of the rooms. It's just beautiful. It's really beautiful. One of our local contractors from here and a volunteer group of people turned that place upside down. I should find those pictures and post them.
It's
the before and
amazing.
after.
Yeah.
It was really beautiful. But I do want to say that one of the persons that has been there and whose life changed,
right,
even in that atmosphere, was like, but it wasn't how it looked that changed my life. So there's a fine line here for us, and I'm so grateful for the change, and it's stunning, and nobody can argue with the fact that atmosphere matters.
Oh, absolutely.
It absolutely matters.
I think even though that person may have said it wasn't how it looked, that certainly contributes to it, though.
It does.
You know what I mean?
It does.
It's not so much the look; it's the feel.
It absolutely
do I feel
is
like
a feel.
it's home, and do I feel loved?
Yes.
Again.
Yes. And worthy of more.
Yeah.
Worthy.
And that
worthy.
life doesn't have to be this way, right?
Worthy of different.
Yeah.
And
it
was
that's and of that we're not successful with everybody. Because some people that come in are not looking and ready or willing to do the work that's necessary to have that. That doesn't come free.
It's true.
And we have such an entitlement society that they don't understand many times when they first come in, this costs something. This This is something that I'm going to have to work for, right? And work towards having, but it's there to show a vision of what life can be and will be if
yes.
I will stick with it. And
Yes.
but oh, the joy of
Yes.
finding those families
Yes. Yes.
that are sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah.
And they're ready for change in their life and ready to come full circle. That's the blessing. And it's a blessing. Look, if you can provide a night shelter for anybody, that's a blessing. You've fed the hungry, you've clothed the naked, you've provided a place that's warm and safe for them at that night, or cool and safe, whatever the season is. But it's so much better than giving a person a fish to teach them to fish. You know, we've heard that old adage, and I think that's the thing that sets Open Gate apart. And we may not see as many in the numbers, but we're not after everybody. We're just after somebody. We'll embrace just about anybody.
Yes.
But we're looking in that for somebody that wants their life to be different.
Yes. And they have to engage with the truth of God in that, right?
Yes.
You know, one of the scriptures that the Lord gave me early 2020 before we faced all of that as like something to pray over and speak to as people came in was it was about hope and their hope. Not surely there is a future for you.
Yes.
And your hope will not be cut off.
That's
but
right.
they have to engage with that truth.
Come on.
From the Lord,
That's
right?
That's right.
And then their life will change.
And we're not shy at this place at Open Gate to share that truth.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing too, is that if you're not careful, you can take in so much government subsidy and everything that puts restrictions. And that was one of the things that we fundamentally were against. We said, no. Jesus is the center of this. And he's the only one that's really going to change a person's life and transform it. We can give them tools. We can help them with all this other. But unless they have Christ in their life, they're not going to be fulfilled. He came to give us life, and that more abundantly. And so we share that. And I that's one of the things I appreciate about you, and the atmosphere you cultivate with that, the culture, I should say, with the whole staff that thinks that way. And consequently then, our guests, our residents, whatever you call them, these people start feeling that. And everywhere they go, there's Jesus, and you know, there's some,
because we know ultimately they will have nothing without him. That's what drives us. You know, you talk about conflict and dealing with that. You know, we have to deal with that, don't we, with our own staff
every day,
and you know, all the time. What is our goal? Our goal is to be more like Jesus and to reflect him to each other, to love God first and love others. You know, the whole tagline for Open Gate is ministering to people through the life and teachings of Jesus Christ.
Right.
Well, what is that?
Right.
What is that? He came to heal.
Right.
He came to deliver. He came to change people's lives. Not he, you know, I do love that saying that's like he meets us where we're at, but he loves us enough to not leave us there.
I say all the time, God loves you too much to leave you the way he found you.
That's right.
And you are here, but you don't have to stay here.
And people need to get that fundamentally, that he loves you, who you are, and right where you're at. If they can get the revelation of that truth in their hearts off the bat, that's our springboard to what else does he then have for my life? You know, it's life-changing. That's the gospel. That's what we're here for.
So I know we could go another hour because we haven't even scratched the surface, but I want to hear from you to wrap this up today. How do people get involved and get connected with this vital, important ministry that really is making an impact. And I think the thing that I say in that is, this isn't a commercial, right? We're not trying to create a commercial. This is a community
It is.
of something that is really real and relevant. And that's why I'm having you on Real Talk, because this is a real situation in real families' lives that we're able to impact. And maybe they can't work in the shelter. Maybe they can't even volunteer, which we can embrace people to help with food distribution and in the shelter, or teaching classes, or connecting with one of the local churches that are helping. But how does a person, at the end of the day, it takes finances to move this thing forward. And so how does a person connect with us financially?
Financially, the easiest way is just to go on the website. So there's a donate page there, opengatedinuba.com. And if you want to use the link, it's /donate. There is a way to donate online. You can donate monthly. We would love, we try to, in some ways, keep it in doable amounts. For years, some of our donor base has been connected for a long time. Maybe they're getting a little older. So we were trying to just make it feasible to give $10 a month, $20 a month,
Right.
$25 a month. I tell my niece and her friends that are like in their 40s, I'm like, you guys, that's one drive-through. $25 a month is one drive-through Starbucks for you.
Yep.
Give up one of those and give it to Open Gate. If we got 200, 300 more of those people giving up one drive-through a month,
Right.
of
Right.
of
Right.
Of Starbucks, we
Right.
would be sitting in a decent place.
We'd be able to do a lot more.
We would and that's what we want to do. We want to increase. I would love to have another house. I would love to have a place that's specific to that gap where teens can't get in, put in places, or single men. We don't take in single men. We're a family shelter, but we often get people wanting just a place to get on their feet again, that kind of scenario. But anyway,
the thing is that when we look at that, we're not looking. Look, there are people that they could go on there and they could set it up on a monthly donation for $100 a month, or 300 or 500.
Yes.
There are people that can do that, but they're not any more important than the big numbers of people who will give 20, 30, 50 a month and go, well, what's my $20 do? Well, a lot when you add it with everybody else's, because man, it's not cheap to take care of that many people. Want to remind everybody that's watching or that might tune into this, we care for these people with paid staff round the clock.
Right.
So you do the math on minimum wage even. Mm-hmm. If everybody, which not everybody's making minimum wage, of course, but you just look at minimum wage that's going to like 14 or 15 an hour in January.
Correct.
That's what we used to look at as a livable wage, and $15 an hour is over $30,000 a year, right? But that's what it takes, and you have to pay somebody even at night to be there. Other than the volunteers that we have that will cover a night here and there.
Yeah.
And thank God for them. They're saving an enormous sum of money for Open Gate. We couldn't make it if it weren't for those volunteers. But at the end of the day, we still have to have paid staff around, and more than one while the waking hours are going on, because there's so much that's going on. We got to prepare food. We got to oversee and supervise people. We got to make sure that the chores are done so that the house is clean, and on and on. And the programs and everything
Yep.
that we're doing,
Yep.
the counseling, the case working
Yes.
of every individual, getting that time with Robin, who
Yes.
works with them about their particular
Yep.
situation.
Right.
That stuff is expensive,
It is.
and so somebody may look at that and go, well, my $20 isn't much, but man, oh man,
It means the world.
if
really.
we had, I mean, think about this. If we could gather 500 people that would just give $20 a month, that's $10,000. It would set us from where we are. It would put us over the top
to a place of growth.
and
Of
be
being
able to
able to
grow.
grow.
Not just
You know.
sustain, but be
Yeah.
able to grow.
Yeah.
So it's really
Yeah.
important.
And we, we are kind of holding our breath sometimes.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
making it each
Yeah.
month right
Yeah.
now. It's like some are better than others. So,
Yeah.
so
I know at the
to-
board level, sometimes we look at the finances, and thank God we've got some bigger sums that came in to help. But on the regular monthly time, it's not uncommon to be $4,000 in the red for a month,
Yeah.
and having to pull it from these savings
Yeah.
that we have set aside to fill that buffer.
Yep.
But man, oh man, if the regular budget that was met there overall,
Yes.
12 months out of the year, oh my gosh, there's so many more things that are in our heart to do for people.
True.
and minister, but we got to have that.
We do.
Gotta have that.
We do. So give if you can.
Yeah, and-
give $20-$25 a month if you can. Like, we would love to increase that by hundreds of people.
So maybe
it-
Adam can even put the website on the what was the website again?
OpenGateDinuba.com.
And then they can go to
There's a donate
click over
page.
to donate.
But,
and
but
it's real
yeah,
simple.
go there. Look at the
Yeah.
pictures. Look at all the different areas. We haven't talked much about food distribution, but we're feeding thousands and thousands of people to the tune of hundreds of thousands of food that we're distributing every year. And that most of that food we get donated, but we still have to have the
We still
personnel
have to
to
distribute
get
it,
there.
and the gas to
yeah.
put it in the truck and take it to a new place, and
Right.
all of that,
You know.
and keep the maintenance up on the truck and everything else,
Yeah.
because we feed people in 3 different locations.
We do right now, and we're
And
and,
we're
and as
about
soon
to
as
add
I
a
get the
4th.
staff, in place, I
We're
need a truck
expanding.
driver.
Yeah.
It's 2021. I need a truck driver.
Right.
Um,
right.
Once we get that in place, we'll go to 4. So we're in Dinuba every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, from 3 to 5 in the afternoon, feeding hundreds a month there. We've got, in terms of families, we've got Orosi that we're in once a month, and we feed about 100 families. I brought the numbers that are more like annually numbers. So far this year, we've done 3,078 families served
Wow.
in the food distribution, 13,000 over that people. And the pounds distribute over 300,000. That's
That's
and
awesome.
we still have 3.5 months left to go in the year.
That's
so
awesome.
So our numbers will be above last year in food distribution, which makes sense because there's
Right.
lots of push from the government even.
Right.
They call them food insecure now
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
is the trendy, but at any rate, the food distribution is
It's in
a joy.
It's in the thousands and thousands of mouths that we're feeding
It is
every
thousands.
single year.
And so we're in Cutler, we're in Orosi, we're in Dinuba, and then we're adding New London.
Wow.
As soon as the staffing gets
Come
in
on.
place. So
and as soon as the finances come
really
in to be able to
excited
move
about
that forward.
Yeah.
Good things.
Yeah, super excited.
Cheryl, I've enjoyed talking with you. We'll have to do this again because there's so much more, and it's real and it's relevant to where we're living today and in our society. And I'm hopeful that the people that have tuned in today will want to do more than just listen, but they'll put their hand forward and help.
Can I talk really quick about just how to get involved?
Yeah,
Do we
sure,
just
sure.
super quick?
Sure.
I love to talk about the scripture in First Peter, I think. Each one should use whatever gift they've been given,
Yes.
faithfully administering God's grace. So God has put stuff in us to give away. That's the beauty of the church.
Yeah.
So for Open Gate specifically, like whether it's at the shelter or at food distribution or even down at the store, like what is in you that you have to give away?
Right.
It could be mentoring people. It could be teaching Bible studies. It could be helping with IT.
Right.
It could be sorting clothes. Like we need help down at the store. Everybody in the world, I think, cleaned out their closets during COVID, right? And it's all sitting in our
warehouse in the back.
Yeah. We need hands to sort through that stuff and get it cleaned up and get it out on the floor, because that just helps sustain the shelter.
Absolutely.
That helps people sleep there and eat there, But anyway, there's just like, consider that. There's places all across the board in every part of Open Gate that need you.
Yeah.
And ask the Lord and listen and then come.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Because I promise if they'll stop, ask the Lord, and listen, they'll be moved to some sort of action, one way or another, because this is an important ministry.
Yeah.
Love you, Cheryl. Thank you so much for joining me.
Much.
All right.